Yes, madam. You can start it now.
Yeah. Let him start the YouTube, then I'll start. 1 minute. Good morning, everybody. Yesterday, we had started with commercial laws, and we finished with the Contract Act and half of Sale of Goods Act. Today, we'll be continuing with the Sale of Goods Act, the remaining part, and the rest of the commercial law we'll be doing today. And if possible, I'll be also starting with the company law part today. Uh, so, we had in Sale of Goods Act, we had finished with the contract of sale. Under that, sale and agreement to sell, and the difference between that we had seen. Today will, and we had also seen this document of title to goods, that is ownership right. Title means ownership right towards goods. So document regarding ownership rights, that we had understood, and conditions and warranties we had understood yesterday. So if any doubts regarding that, you can comment. I'll be today starting with the caveat emptor doctrine. Okay, so principle of caveat emptor. This is a very famous doctrine under Sale of Goods Act, and for consumers also. Doctrine of caveat emptor says that in bold letters you can see, let the buyer be aware. So whenever we are buying anything, first of all, we as a buyer need to be aware. If any defect is apparent on the face of the goods, it's very much apparent, and we by normal due diligence, if we can find the defect, and if we still do not pay heed to it, and we ignore taking care, the primary care as well, then we have no right to file suit against seller. So the doctrine of caveat emptor says that let the buyer be aware. So it's a fundamental principle. It's a very important principle of Sale of Goods Act. Okay, so it's a duty of the buyer to be careful while purchasing goods. If he has been careful, if he has checked it, and if he can prove that, and later on if some internal defect in the goods is seen, then only he can file suit against seller, otherwise he cannot. So that is the doctrine of caveat emptor. Very important one, again very favorite question of examiners. Caveat emptor has been asked a lot of times in your exams. Now, exceptions to the doctrine of caveat emptor, that says that caveat emptor says let the buyer be aware, but when exactly even after being aware, if something happens, then he can file case against seller. So in what situation it happens? So that forms as exceptions to the doctrine of caveat emptor. So first exception is in case of misrepresentation by the seller. If the buyer is being aware, but if there is a misrepresentation, that yesterday in Contract Act we had understood what is misrepresentation. That is stating false facts and taking consent for the contract. Okay, so if based on misrepresentation, if someone's consent is taken, the seller's consent, seller has misrepresented the facts while selling the goods, then doctrine of caveat emptor won't be applicable. Seller would be directly held liable, even if, here exception means even if caveat caveat emptor is not there, means buyer has not been aware, still the seller, if is at his end, if the mistake is there, misrepresentation is there, he'll be held liable. Buyer need not be aware. Next exception is in case of concealment of latent defect. The latent means the important thing, important utility about the goods. If there is a big defect in that, and that is concealed by the seller purposely, then even if buyer is not aware, buyer has not checked, because of the concealment of latent defect, seller will be held liable definitely. So when we are dealing with these exceptions, you keep in mind that seller will be always held liable. Buyer need not be aware. That is why this all stands as exceptions. Another one is in case of sale by description. When seller has described some goods and he is selling by description, and then buyer will obviously trust the seller that he will sell the goods rightly as per the whatever he's selling the goods, it is as per the description. If it doesn't turn out to be as per description, it is seller's mistake altogether. Caveat emptor rule will not be applicable. In case of, next is in case of sale by sample. If seller has shown some sample to the buyer, and buyer has approved that sample, that yes, I want goods in bulk as per the sample only, then he will rely on the seller that as per sample only buyer must have provided the goods. If it doesn't turn out to be that way, seller will be held responsible directly. In case of sale by sample and description, both the above points together which we saw, if it is described also by the seller, and if it is the sample is also shown, if both the things are there, then obviously buyer will rely on the seller that the goods he will supply will be as per sample and description only, and then any defect turns out in the goods, then definitely buyer will be held liable. Seller will be held liable directly, even if buyer has not been aware. Fitness for particular purpose. Now, if goods buyer has stated that I want it for particular purpose, and seller has told that yes, it is fit for that purpose, then even if buyer has not checked the goods, he will rely on the statement of seller as per his experience. And if the goods turns out to be unfit for that particular purpose, seller will be held directly liable. And last is merchantable quality, that is marketable quality. Merchantable quality means marketable quality. If the goods are not marketable up to the mark of marketable quality, then seller will be directly held liable, because marketable quality means anyone in market would purchase such goods. It should be of that quality. If it is of not that quality, seller will be held responsible, buyer need not be aware. So caveat emptor rule will not be held applicable in these kind of exceptions. Let us move ahead. Let us move ahead with the another topic, passing or transfer of property. Yesterday also I had explained that what does passing of property means. Here in legal terms, passing of property means passing of the ownership rights regarding goods. Okay, if ownership rights regarding goods is passed to the buyer, we can say sale, SALE, sale is complete. Okay, so when exactly there is a passing or transfer of property, here property does not mean goods, movable, immovable property. It doesn't mean that way. Here passing of property or transfer of property means passing of ownership rights in the goods. Okay, so when exactly it happens, that is very important to understand. If we can understand that, we can understand that when exactly sale becomes complete. Okay, so when exactly sale takes place, until then it will be considered as agreement to sell. Okay, so let us understand passing or transfer of property, when exactly it takes place. First one, transfer of property in goods from the seller to the buyer is the main object of a contract of sale. That is right, as I made you understand. Property in goods means ownership of goods. An article may belong to A, although it may not be in his possession. B may be in his possession of that article, although he is not its owner. So it so happens many a times that seller has not yet delivered the goods, but buyer has paid the price. And in such situation, we can say that since buyer has paid the price, he has become owner of the goods. It is just in the custody of the seller yet. So if it is still, goods are still with the seller, but buyer has become the owner of goods, we can say that way, right? So it so happens that buyer may not be in the possession of goods, but still he can be the owner of goods. But when exactly it happens? When the property in goods is passed to the buyer, then only he becomes the owner. It is important to know the precise moment of time at which the property in goods passes from the seller to the buyer for the following reasons. So for all these reasons, for these three purposes, it is very important to know that when exactly property in goods passes to the buyer. The timing is very important, because who will be liable then? The one who is the owner. Say for example, goods are burnt in the fire. Even if buyer is not in the possession of goods, it's with the seller. But if buyer has become the owner, he will bear the risk. So who will be liable exactly? The one who is the owner. So that is why we need to know who is the owner at what point of time. Then next is risk. Owner to bear the risk, and not the person who merely has the possession. Yes, definitely. So any risk, any loss, any liability, owner will bear. So that is why possession will not matter. What will matter is the who is the owner. And action against third party. Owner can take action against action and not the person who merely has possession. Say for example, goods are stolen, okay, from the one in whose possession it is. But if seller is in possession and buyer has already become the owner, then owner can file action of theft against the one who stole it, against the one who stole it. So action can be taken by the owner and not the one only who's in whose possession the goods were and it was stolen. So action against third party can be taken only by the owner. So for all these purposes, we need to know who is the owner at what point of time. That is why passing of property takes place at what time. That is very important to know. And this part you can see in your books. It is in your module, it is clearly given when exactly there is a passing of property, when exactly it happens. So you have understand passing of property, why it is important, when exactly happens. It is very simple to understand. That from your module you can understand. Next one is unpaid seller. Unpaid seller is covered in section 45 of Sale of Goods Act. The seller of goods is deemed to be an unpaid seller when the whole of the price has not been paid or tendered. Okay. So, the seller of goods, if seller has sold the goods but he has not received the price from the buyer yet, then he will be deemed to be unpaid seller. So by the term itself, you can very well understand what is unpaid seller. The whole of the price has not been paid or tendered. Maybe partly price is paid and partly it is not paid. Still the seller would be considered as unpaid seller only. Then a bill of exchange or the negotiable instrument has been received as a conditional payment, and the condition on which it was received has not been fulfilled by reason of the dishonor of the instrument or otherwise. So if the buyer has given bill of exchange or negotiable instrument to the seller, but it is based on some condition, on the fulfillment of some condition only, that payment can be made through that bill of exchange. And if that condition is not fulfilled, or the bill of exchange or negotiable instrument is dishonored, that is not paid by the buyer, then in such circumstances also seller would be considered as unpaid seller. This is also quite favorite question. A lot of times they've asked questions on unpaid seller as a short note. So what I explained until now is covered over here. What exactly, when exactly the seller is considered as unpaid seller. You can go through this slide. This is very simple to understand. Also, whenever seller is has spent some extra expenses, has made some extra expenses on behalf of buyer, and those expenses also, if not paid by the buyer, at that point of time also we can say that seller is unpaid seller. And here, as it is covered, if seller has been paid by the buyer full price, but seller has refused to accept them, then we cannot say seller is unpaid seller, because it is the fault on the part of seller there. The next one you can see is where the goods have been sold on credit and seller cannot be called as unpaid seller unless these conditions are fulfilled. So if during credit period this happens, this is a normal custom in many of the business regarding goods, that seller gives the goods for 3 months credit period, 2 months credit period. It's very normal practice. Okay. So if that is the practice, that is in on credit seller is given, then he cannot be said unpaid seller unless during that credit period the buyer becomes insolvent. Here in the slide there is a change, it's a mistake over here. If during the credit period buyer becomes insolvent, not seller, because buyer is the one who will be paying the price, right? So if buyer becomes insolvent, then we can say seller is unpaid, because he will not be in a position, buyer will not be in a position to pay anymore. Okay. Or on the expiry of the credit period, if the price remains unpaid. So after expiry of credit period, say for example, for 3 months credit time, seller has given goods to the buyer. After 3 months also buyer does not pay. After 3 months period, we can say that seller is an unpaid seller. So in these two situations, seller becomes unpaid seller when goods are given on the credit. What are the rights of an unpaid seller? So what happens when seller becomes unpaid? He is not paid. So what rights he gets under law? So he gets rights against goods and against buyer personally, both the ways. Okay. So against goods, where the property in goods has passed to the buyer, means buyer has already become the owner. What happens in that situation? And other is where the property in goods has not passed to the buyer, that seller is still the owner of the goods. Then what happens? In both the ways, what are the rights of seller that we are supposed to see? So where the property in goods has passed to the buyer, means buyer has become already the owner of goods, but still he has not paid the seller. Then what happens? Then seller, if already in possession of goods, if seller only has the possession and buyer has not paid part amount or full amount or anything, then seller will have right of lien. But provided this right will be available to seller only when he is in the possession of the goods. Only if seller is in the possession of goods, he will get this right. Right of lien means right to retain the possession of goods. In your mock test, if you have given this right of lien is also asked. Yesterday also I had mentioned about this. Lien means right to retain the possession of goods. You can write down that in your books. Lien means right to retain the possession of goods. So right of lien seller gets when he is already in the possession of goods and a buyer has not paid him fully. He can still retain the goods until he gets the full price. Next right he gets is right of stoppage in transit. Say for example, seller has already delivered the goods and the goods are still in transit and it has not reached the buyer yet. Then in that situation, what happens? Seller can instruct the goods to be stopped in the transit and it should not reach the buyer until he pays the price. That is what the seller can do. And the third right he gets is right of resale. If this right also seller gets only when he's still in the possession of goods, otherwise he won't get. So right of resale is if he's in the possession of goods and buyer is not paying him, maybe partly paid or fully unpaid. Okay, so in that situation, what seller can do is seller can resale the goods. Even if buyer property in goods is passed to the buyer, that is buyer has become the owner, but still if he's not paying the price fully, seller has all right to resale the goods. So these rights, these three rights seller gets when he's unpaid. Very, very favorite question of examiners. A lot of times this has been asked in your exams. Please make note of this, and very simple. This I have given explanation. This explanation very well drafted. You can find in your books, in your module. See here, right of lien also, as I explained, is given in the detail. That is, right of lien means right to retain the possession of goods. So you are supposed to retain the possession of the goods until you get the full price from the buyer. And circumstances under right of lien can be exercised, of course, only when goods are in the possession. Okay, first condition is that. Then other condition is where the goods have been sold without any stipulation to credit. If seller has given some credit period to the buyer, then in that circumstances, of course, until the credit period is over, he cannot retain the possession of goods. He cannot exercise his right. Then another one is where the goods have been sold on credit, but the term of credit has expired. Then only right of lien can be exercised. And the third one is where the buyer becomes insolvent. If buyer has become insolvent, then he can retain the possession of goods because there are no chances of him getting the price anymore. Okay. Then right of stoppage of goods in transit. This also I explained you that if the goods are still in transit and it has not reached the buyer, the seller can always stop it in the transit, and he can instruct the one who's taking the goods to the buyer that you please do not deliver it to the buyer until I instruct. So that is what he can do. This right, such right can be exercised when the goods are, seller must have parted with the possession of goods. The goods must not be in the possession of seller. It's in transit and it has also not reached the buyer. In that situation, it can happen. Next is right of resale. Yeah, right of resale. So unpaid seller can resell the goods under the following circumstances. If the goods are of perishable nature, if it's going to spoil, like in this picture it is shown the tomatoes and any kind of vegetables or fruits. If the goods are of perishable nature and he cannot wait, the seller cannot wait until the buyer pays the price, otherwise it will get perished and it will be of no use to him as well. So in such situation, seller can resell it and recover the price. Second one is where the seller expressly reserves the right of resale if the buyer commits a default in making the payment. Many times seller and buyer while entering into agreement, put a clause in their agreement that in case you do not pay, if you make default in the payment, I will reserve the right of resale. If such clause is already put in the contract of sale, then seller can exercise this right of resale. Next one is where the unpaid seller who has exercised his right of lien or stoppage in transit gives a notice to the buyer about his intention to resell and buyer does not pay or tender within a reasonable time. Okay, after buyer makes default in payment, if seller has served him the notice that if within so and so time, if you do not reply, I will sell off the goods, I will resell these goods, and still buyer does not reply anything, he does not reply within that reasonable time, then seller has all right to resell the goods. Now another situation comes where the property in goods has not been passed to the buyer. Okay, so that means buyer has not become the owner yet, seller is only the owner. Then in that situation, if buyer is not ready to pay, or he's not paying the amount fully, if it is made, the only part payment is made, then in such situation, what seller can do, because seller is still the owner, property in goods has not been passed to the buyer yet. So in such situation, three kind of rights seller gets. One is withholding the delivery, he will not deliver the goods until he gets the price. Again, stoppage in transit, similar one. And right of resale, this is also similar one, because seller himself is the owner yet. He can decide whoever to whom whomever he wants to resell those goods. So in these three rights he gets when the property in goods has not been passed to the buyer. Now, earlier we saw in this slide, unpaid seller has rights against goods and against buyer personally, both the ways. Okay. So we saw already what happens against goods, what regarding goods, what seller can do. Now let us see what seller can do against buyer personally. So he can file a suit for price, or he can file suit for damages. Two kinds of rights he gets. Against buyer personally, he can suit for price. Okay, I want so and so price about, which is mentioned in the contract, and I want fulfillment of this contract. So I am claiming this price. For that price, buyer can file a suit, and another suit he can file for damages. If, say for example, he does not want a now price, but he wants compensation for whatever period he waited and he lost his business, or there was a disturbance in his business, then he can also file suit for damages. That is, here again I'm mentioning, like yesterday, damages means compensation. Here damages does not mean damage or destruction of goods. Here damages means compensation. Okay, so he can file suit for compensation. Now let us understand, next one is suit for breach of the contract. If buyer is not paying the price, that also amounts to breach of contract, because as per the contract, seller needs to deliver the goods and buyer needs to pay the price. If he is not paying the price, it's we can call that it is a breach of contract. So what he can do is he can file a suit for price. So suit for breach of contract, he can file suit for price, and here also suit for damages. Both the ways he can file when there is a breach of contract. This is similar to what I explained earlier. You can go through this slide quickly. And when the seller files suit for damages, then these two kinds of suit he can file regarding these two kind of cause of actions, that is damages for non-acceptance or damages for non-delivery. Any one kind of suit he can file. Now let us understand the next topic, sale by auction. Auction word everybody must have heard. I'm very sure. If not, if you guys have not attended sale by auction, even if you have not attended sale by auction, definitely you must have seen this in your series and movies and TV shows and all. So this auction keeps happening in this movies and all. So I'm very sure everybody must have heard this word auction. So auction is a place, if in case by any chance if someone has not someone is not aware about auction, I will tell in short. Auction is a place where lot of people comes together, and they make a bid for buying the product, and whoever raises the highest makes the highest bid will get the will get that product, will actually buy that product, becomes the buyer. So that is sale by auction. So what happens when there is no contract of sale, but if sale is by auction, so seller is in the auction, he is asking a lot of people to bid for it, and then he decides, the buyer, that whoever bids the highest will become the buyer. So if sale happens that way, then what exactly are the rules? That is covered in section 64. In case of sale by auction, the following rules apply. At an auction, the sale is complete where the auctioneer announces its completion by the fall of hammer. ऐसे एक हथौड़ा मार के finally they will decide that this is the person who will get it because his bid was highest until now. So that is how the sale is decided. A bidder is at the liberty to withdraw his bid at any time before it is accepted by the auctioneer. Okay. In flow, if someone raises high bid, and then he's afraid that I might get this bid, and I might get this product and I have to pay then later. So before auctioneer fall the hammer and decides that auction is complete, before that bidder may always withdraw his bid. Definitely that would be very embarrassing, but he can still do so. Advertisement to auction is not an offer but mere invitation. Yeah. Whenever in newspaper or in any pamphlets or anything, if some advertisement regarding auction is given, that is not an offer, but it is just invitation for making offer. Actually, offer is making bids. When bids are made by the bidders, it is called offer. As per the contract, it will be considered as offer when the bids are made, and when the seller is inviting everybody for auction, that is just called invitation to offer. Auctioneer has right to make any condition he likes. He can always keep some condition that from where bid will start, or only this people can make the bid. Such kind of condition auctioneer can always keep. Then biddings can be withdrawn before acceptance. Yeah, that we already did. Then pretended bidding by seller to raise prices avoidable at option of buyer. Okay, pretended bidding by seller to raise prices voidable at the option of buyer. This is very, very important to understand. This is technical one. You can be asked case study also regarding this. So pretended bidding is by seller. Okay. So what seller can do? Among other bidders, seller can ask some of his persons to sit, and to get the highest price, he can ask his persons to bid in between, so that price goes high. They actually do not wish to buy, those persons do not wish to buy, but just to raise the bid high, they make the pretended bidding. If such thing happens, and finally actual buyer gets the, because of pretended bidding, if actual buyer gets the goods in very high price, then in such situation, at the option of buyer, the contract of sale, this sale becomes voidable. What exactly means by voidable? We have seen in Indian Contract Act. Voidable means buyer will have option to choose whether he wants to continue with the contract or he wants to cancel the contract. Okay. In such situation, he also gets right to cancel the contract. So this is very important one. No seller or any person who has advertised can bid at an auction sale unless right is notified. Of course, seller himself, if bidding, it will be covered in the pretended bidding thing, and it's actually prohibited. It's not allowed. So those who are advertising cannot make the bids at the auction. Okay, unless here there is an exception, unless the right is notified. If in the advertisement itself it is mentioned that seller will also have right to bid, then in such, if it is notified from beginning, from beforehand, then only seller will be able to bid, otherwise he will not be able to bid. So conclusion is, the sale of goods is the most common of all commercial transactions. It happens in day-to-day life with each one of us. Okay, and knowledge of sale of goods is very important. Law relating to sale of goods is contained in Sale of Goods Act 1930. All right. So here I am finishing Sale of Goods Act. Any queries regarding Sale of Goods Act, you feel free to ask me in YouTube comment section. All right. I'll definitely address your queries. Now I'll be starting with another one. Negotiable Instruments Act. I'll be back in 2 minutes, guys. Please stay tuned. Okay. Before starting with the Negotiable Instruments Act, there are some queries. I'll quickly address them. Uh, so, unpaid seller, Avni Thakkar, you want me to repeat unpaid seller? Okay, seller is when the buyer has not paid the price to the seller. He's said to be unpaid seller. Uh, that is what you want to know. What exactly is your query? Please write again. Uh, this act, Avni, you are asking this act is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir? So no, yeah, it is not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Yesterday only when we started with the act, I had mentioned about that. Tejal, you're asking what is the doctrine of caveat emptor? Caveat emptor, I explained very well. Caveat emptor means let the buyer be aware. Whenever buyer is buying some goods, in first place, he also needs to be aware. If he is not aware and directly putting blame on the seller, if there in while buying the goods, if some defects can be found on the it's very apparent, आराम से आप देख सकते हो कि कोई डिफेक्ट्स है गुड्स में और आप जरा भी चेक नहीं करते हो तो ये डेफिनेटली आपका गलती है while buying the goods. The buyer also needs to be aware. He cannot be just taking, say for example, you are buying a t-shirt, you are going to the mall and you are buying a t-shirt. You will at least open the t-shirt, you will see on the front and on the back that whether there is a hole in the t-shirt or no, or some stain is there or no. So such thing you will definitely see firstly, right? Or you will just folded t-shirt, you will directly put in your bag? Definitely not. So at least that much you need to see. Apparent defect, if any, in the goods, that you need to first see. If that is also not seen from the side of buyer, then definitely there is a mistake on part of buyer also. So he needs to be aware. If he is aware and he has tried to check everything and then internal defects comes out, then only he can blame seller and file suit against the seller. That is what is caveat emptor means. Tejal, I hope your query is answered. Omkar, you are asking, what do you mean by performance of contract of sale? Performance of contract of sale, here contract of sale में there are two parties, seller and buyer. Seller के side से उसको क्या करना है? What does he need to do? Seller needs to deliver the goods. Okay, deliver the fit goods for useful for the buyer. And buyer is under duty. What he needs to do? He's under duty to pay the price. When both of them are performing their duty, one is delivering the goods, other is paying the price, then it is said the performance of sale of goods act contract. Okay. So Omkar, I hope your answer is also question is also answered. If any other question arises, let me know. I'll be now starting with Negotiable Instrument Act quickly. So Negotiable Instrument Act, this is not something new for you. Negotiable instrument, everybody I hope knows that what is negotiable. Let me first explain you what is negotiable. The two terms, negotiable and instruments, both the terms you must understand to understand the act. Okay. So negotiable means transferable. Okay. Easily transferable. That is what is negotiable. And instruments means document. So what all documents are considered as easily transferable documents? That is what we are going to learn in Negotiable Instruments Act. So to begin with the act, again here also the act is applicable to entire India except Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. And this act operates subject to provision of section 31 and 32 of RBI Act. So RBI will be governing these instruments. Okay, some rules regarding this will be applicable from RBI. You know, in together with the Negotiable Instrument Act, we need to see section 31 and 32 of RBI Act as well for negotiable instruments purpose. So this act will be functioning simultaneously with the RBI Act's provisions. Now, as I was explaining, negotiable instruments. Now, this two terms, Negotiable Instruments Act, when we are doing, we need to understand these two terms. Negotiable, what does negotiable means and what does instrument means? So, what is negotiable? Negotiable means transferable. Okay, easily transferable. So, how a negotiable instrument can be transferred? Either by delivery, just by delivery, yeah, or by delivery and endorsement. Endorsement and delivery, I mean signing and then delivering it. So that is how the negotiation can be made. So that is what is negotiable. Negotiable means easily transferable. What is an instrument? Instrument means, as I said, document. But what all documents are considered as instrument under this act, that we need to understand. So what all instruments are covered? Checks, drafts, bill of exchange, and some types of promissory note. Okay, so majorly in Negotiable Instrument Act will be saying promissory note, bill of exchange, checks. Okay. Clearly, as I said, in these three, bill of exchange, promissory note, and check is covered in negotiable instrument. Those are considered as negotiable instruments. Section 13(1) of Negotiable Instrument Act clearly says that the act is dealing with specifically these three instruments only, these three kind of negotiable instruments only, that is promissory note, bill of exchange, and checks. So here a negotiable instrument means a promissory note, a bill of exchange, check payable either to order or bearer. Let me explain these words, very important to understand this act, these two words, order or bearer. Order means whenever you write someone's name on the instrument, okay, so that is termed as order. So if on the check, if you write party's name, then that becomes order. So the instrument is payable to a order, or in the promissory note or on bill of exchange, if you write down the party's name, that is considered as order. And bearer is one on which you do not write anybody's name on. I think everybody must have seen checks, right? बैंक के जो checks होते हैं सब लोग ने देखे होंगे, तो उस पे नाम लिखने के लिए भी स्पेस होता है, there is a space for writing name as well, and after that space or bearer is also written. So if you do not write anybody's name and you do not cancel bearer also, and if you have signed the check, then in anybody's hand, if that check comes, he can go and withdraw the money by filling the amount. Okay. So that is what is bearer. Bearer means whoever receives it, whoever is in the possession of that instrument, his name should not be written on that instrument. Whoever is in the possession, he will get the amount from the instrument, which is written in the instrument. Okay. So that is what is order and bearer. I hope everybody is clear. A negotiable instrument may be made able to two or more pays jointly. Here, pays means the one who will receive the amount in the instrument. The one who is eligible to receive the amount in the instrument is considered as payee. Okay. So there can be, it's not necessary that there will be single pay. There can be more pays also, and they will be then receiving amounts jointly. Or it may be made payable in the alternative or to one of two. If either or is written, then any one of the two payees may get. Okay. The way they have written in the instrument, it will depend on that. Or one or some of several payees. Or it out of if it is written whoever first comes to receive will get, then out of several payees only one or some may get. Forms of negotiable instrument. Negotiable is written order promising to pay sum of money. A document becomes negotiable when it contains an unconditional promise. It's written in the black quoted. Understand it properly. It is an unconditional promise to pay money and is payable to a bearer or payable on demand. Now, these three terms you need to understand very well. These three terms written in the black quoted, you need to understand very well. Unconditional promise means there should the promise to pay, that I will pay on this date. If that is written in the instrument, the promise must not be conditional. That is based on some condition, fulfillment of some condition. कि ये condition fulfill होगा तो ही payment होगा. ऐसा कोई condition नहीं होना चाहिए. It has to be unconditional promise totally. And is payable to bearer or payable on demand. It can be both the ways. The one who's going to pay will choose. It should be paid to a bearer or payable on demand. That is whenever, if order's name is written, if someone's name is written, whenever he asks and pay, so either it is payable to order or bearer. That can be decided by the party who's paying, or it is payable on demand or after some period of time. That also can be decided by the party who is paying the amount. Okay. Features of a negotiable instrument. It's a written document by which certain rights are created and transferred to a certain person. It must be signed by the maker or the drawer, as the case may be. In case of promissory note, the parties are called promisor and promisee. Maker of the note is called promisor. So he needs to sign. In case of bill of exchange, the parties are drawer, drawee, and payee. Okay. Drawer is the one who makes the bill of exchange. Drawee is the one who is directed to be paid by the drawer. Say, for example, there are three parties, A, B, and C. A is a drawer. He is making the bill of exchange and he's asking B that you please pay to C. So A is ordering B to pay to C. So in such situation, Mr. A is drawer, Mr. B is drawee, and Mr. C is paying. Are you all clear with this? So A is a drawer who is directing B to pay. B is drawee, and C, to whom it is supposed to be paid, is called a pay. Everybody clear, I hope, with this. So it must be signed by maker or drawer, as the case may be. So who is making the instrument must sign it. Okay. Then there must exist the unconditional order or promise to pay. Earlier, as we saw, the promise to pay or the order to pay should not be based on some condition. It must be free of the condition. There must be a time mentioned for such payment. It can be payment payable on demand also, or after some period of time also. So whatever way it is, it should be mentioned in the instrument very, very clearly. Then in particular cases, the drawee's name should be specifically mentioned. Okay. At times, drawee means the one who's ordered by drawer to pay to the payee. Okay. So A, B, C में B was drawee. A ने B को बताया कि you pay to C. So B is drawee. So drawee's name should be written by the drawer that he is the one who is going to make payment to C. So that should be clear, specifically mentioned. Types of negotiable instrument. Check, promissory note, bill of exchange. This is what we are going to deal with majorly. Let us understand promissory note first, quickly. So section 4 here, section 4 says promissory note, section 5 bill of exchange, section 6 check. So in this sequence, you can remember these three negotiable instruments. So section 4 covers promissory note. Very simple to understand promissory note. One person promises the other that I will pay you so and so amount mentioned in the instrument at this particular time, okay, at this particular date, or whenever you demand, whatever way it is, it can be mentioned in the instrument. Okay, so one person promises other that I will pay you so and so amount after this much time. Okay, so that is what is promissory note. The illustrations are also given here, and the meaning, the definition is also clear, given in very easy language. Please go through this slide quickly. Next one, characteristics of promissory note. It has to be in writing. There must be a promise to pay. Then maker needs to sign it. Other formalities like stamping and all legal formalities must be satisfied. Definite and unconditional promise. It has to be not based on some condition. Promise to pay money only, not things, or not something in kind. Okay, so it has to be regarding money only for money. Maker must be a certain person. The one promisor must be a certain person. The promiser's name should be also written in the promissory note. Then pay must be certain. Pay's name should be also written in the promissory note. So promisor and promisee, or maker and pay, both the ways party's name can be called in promissory note. Some payable must be certain. Some payable should also be mentioned in the instrument. That must be also certain. It should not be approx amount. It may be payable on demand or after a definite period of time. So it may be payable on demand. Any ways out of two, any which ways promissory note can be made that Mr. A promises to Mr. B payee that I will pay you after 3 months from this date, and then date is mentioned. That way also it can be done, or it can be done that within 3 months, whenever you demand, Mr. A will pay to Mr. B this much amount. That can be, that way also promissory note can be made. It cannot be made payable to bearer on demand. Okay, promissory note is not available for bearer. That is why it is written that pay's name must be written. Pay must be certain person. So bearer, it is not payable to bearer. And if it is at all payable to bearer, then at least not on demand. On demand, it cannot be paid. It can be paid to bearer only after a certain period of time. If payable to bearer, like that, promissory notes are generally not payable to bearer. It is payable to certain payee only. See, parties to a promissory note, maker, the one, promisor also we can say, the one who promises to pay the amount, pays the one to whom amount is payable, and holder, the one who's finally holding the instrument. So either it can be pay, or pay ने किसी और को transfer किया है, pay has transferred to someone else later, then तो उसको भी हो सकता है, then that person can be holder. So pay himself can be the holder, or later if pay transferred to someone else, then that person becomes the holder and the final pay. So how it can be done? How pay can transfer to someone else? By making the endorsement. About endorsement also we'll learn in a while. Specimen of promissory note. This is how it looks. I hope everybody is clear about how promissory note looks and it works. Some more examples of promissory note. This is how it is made. The next one is check. Next one we'll learn is check according to section 6. As I said, promissory note was covered in section 4. Check is bill of exchange in section 5 and check in section 6. Before dealing with bill of exchange, we'll be learning first about check. So the check is actually a bill of exchange. Okay. Quite similar to bill of exchange, but there is one difference, like some differences between check and bill of exchange. We'll see in a while about the differences as well. But let us first understand about check. So I think check everybody has seen, but in as per negotiable instrument, in legal sense, what does check mean according to section 6? Please read this on. It is very simple to understand. A check is a bill of exchange. That means there are 3 parties involved: drawer, drawee, and payee. 3 parties involved. A check is a bill of exchange drawn on a specified banker and not expressed to be payable otherwise than on demand. Okay. So check may always drawer is the one who's account holder. In simple terms, if I explain you. I have an account in Bank of India, say for example. So when I am writing on my check someone's name, Mr. C's name, okay, then Mr. C is paying. Who's going to get the amount? It's me who's holding the account in Bank of India, and on Bank of India's check, I'm writing the amount of writing the name and amount towards Mr. C. I am a drawer. I am directing my Bank of India, that is drawee, to pay to Mr. C, that is payee. So everybody clear here? So check is a bill of exchange drawn on a specified banker. So always the biggest difference between bill of exchange and check is all, in case of check, drawee is always fixed. Bank is drawee. Drawer is the one who's actually making the check, who's writing the check, and who's holding the account in a particular bank. And pay is the one who's going to receive the final amount. Okay, so that is how it is. Please read on this slide. Now this bill of exchange and checks are definitely more better. It's much more better than promissory note because it is double secured instrument. How it is double secured, in a while you'll understand. Here pay can claim from 2 person. Drawee से तो claim कर सकता है, but नहीं pay किया तो drawer से भी claim कर सकता है. In promissory note, only one party maker, promisor, is only there from whom you can claim the amount. So this is double secured amount. It's better than promissory note. And one more thing you need to remember about this is it's always payable on demand. There is no particular time limit fixed that after this much time limit the amount will be paid. It's always payable on demand. Whenever the holder of the check, whoever is the payee who is the holding the check, can go to the bank and claim the amount. Okay, there is no time limit fixed over here. So it's always payable on demand. Please also go through essential elements of a check. It also always has to be in writing, express. It's an express order to pay. Then expressly, the name must be mentioned, the pay's name and all. Definite and unconditional order that it should not be based on some condition that only after fulfillment of this condition the payment will be made. It should not be like that way. Signed by the drawer. Always drawer has to sign. Without the signature on the check, the payment will not be cleared by the bank. Order to pay certain sum. Then order to pay money only. There cannot be any kinds which can be asked to be paid. The order to pay money only. Certain three parties. There has to be always three certain parties. Okay, drawn upon a specified banker. Always drawee will be bank, so it must be drawn on a specified banker and payable on demand always. There will not be any time limit after which it has to be paid. Parties to a check, I already explained about this. Drawer, the one who's holding the account in the bank and who's writing the check. Drawee is the banker, always banker. Drawee is ordered to pay to the pay. That is, bank is ordered to pay to the pay, and pay is the one whose name is written on the check. This is how it looks. I think everybody must have seen checks at least. Now let us understand about types of crossing. There are you must have seen those who are doing banking transactions and all must be knowing that there are crossing made on the check to make it more safe. Okay, so there are two types of crossing: general and special crossing. uh, it's a direction. Crossing is basically a direction given by the customer to the banker that payment should not be made across the counter. That is, it should not be paid to some bearer. Okay, so if we have a practice of uh, striking two lines and writing account pay on the bank, that means only to the in the account of the pay whose name is written on the check, उसके account में ही पैसा जाना चाहिए. So account pay, that is how it is written. It should not be paid to the bearer by through cash across the counter. That for that purpose we cross the check. Okay. Crossing is effected by drawing two parallel transverse lines. Only making lines is also enough. Writing account pay is also a practice. That is also fine. See, a check that is not crossed is an open check. If it's not crossed, whoever gets it, say for example, किसी से गुम गया, कहीं रास्ते में गिर गया, किसी ने ले लिया, तो उसको across counter जाके उसमें से पैसा निकाल सकता है. So that is not very safe. So that is why making crossed lines is always a safe practice. It serves as a measure of safety against theft or loss of check in transit. Types of crossing: general and special. So only making two lines and writing not negotiable or account paying or and company. These are general ones. Okay. And special is basically someone's name or some company's name and all is written, then becomes special crossing. Now, next one, section 5 will be covering is bill of exchange. Bill of exchange. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there are three parties involved: drawer, drawee, and pay. I had given you example earlier. Mr. A is a drawer who's making the bill of exchange. He's ordering Mr. B to pay to Mr. C. So drawer, Mr. A is a drawer, Mr. B is drawee, who is ordered by Mr. A to pay to C. So Mr. C is paying, who is going to finally receive the amount. All right. So that is how bill of exchange functions. There are three parties involved. So you can go through the definition given in section 5 of Negotiable Instrument Act. Here, this is quite similar to check. Check may, the drawee is always fixed, it's bad. Here it can be any individual person, any company or any organization, anything. Okay. So drawee is not fixed over here. That is what is the main difference. Otherwise, three parties are same only. Please go through this slide. So mechanism of bill financing. Okay. A lot of people receive bill of exchange. What happens in the business is seller ने जब goods sell किया on credit, buyer gives him negotiable instrument. Okay, bill of exchange for goods has been bought on 3 months credit period. So buyer will give 3 months bill of exchange, writing after 3 months you can receive amount. Like that he gives to the seller. So seller doesn't want his amount to be blocked for 3 months. So what he does is he goes to the bank and he says that I'm going to receive this amount after 3 months. On my behalf, you receive, but you pay me at present. You pay me at present by discounting the bill. That is, if the amount is written is 10,000, you pay me 9,500. It's okay. But you pay me right now, and later, and that 10,000 amount you can receive. Okay. So you can receive from the buyer. So this is how bill financing is done. Essential elements of bill of exchange, writing में होना चाहिए, order to pay by drawer to drawee, signature of the drawer is necessary on the bill of exchange. Then there has to be unconditional order in all the negotiable instruments. It should not be based on some condition. The order to pay, the promise to pay, everything must be unconditional, not based on fulfillment of some condition. Then parties clearly written, certainty of amount has to be there, some certain amount must be written there. Payment in kind is not valid, always it has to be for money only. Stamping is necessary and cannot be made payable to bearer on demand, similar to check, what I explained in the check. Parties to bill of exchange, I already explained, Mr. A, Mr. B and Mr. C. Mr. A is drawer, Mr. B is drawee and Mr. C is payee, as per my previous example. Let us move ahead. Types of bill of exchange. There are two types of bill of exchange: inland bills and foreign bills. Inland bills means parties involved here are Indians only. Foreign bills means one of the party out of two parties, mean the drawer and pay, can be the foreigner, the non-Indian person. You can very well understand from this example, inland bill. The parties are basically in India. The bill is made in India, drawn in India, payable in India. Everything is in India. Parties, payable, drawing of bill, everything. And when any one of the event or one of the party is outside India, it's called foreign bill. Next one, let us see foreign bill. You can go through this and you can understand what is foreign bill. I already mentioned any one of the event or one of the party, if outside India, it will be considered as foreign bill. Specimen of bill of exchange, this is how it looks. another specimen. Can have a look to this also. Now let us understand basis of difference between bill of exchange and check. So drawee in case of bill of exchange can be anyone. In case of check, it is always bank. That you need to understand. Acceptance. The drawee, of course, when drawer is ordering some person, drawee, to pay to the pay, drawee ka bhi acceptance hona chahiye. Drawee must accept to it, right? So if he is not accepting, then it may not be paid by him, right? So in case of bill of exchange, acceptance may be necessary, okay? But in case of check, it is never necessary. Bank will always pay. When you open account with the bank, it promises that whenever you issue check, whenever you draw check, I will pay on your behalf. So there is no need of acceptance there. And in payable on demand, bill of exchange may be or may not be drawn on demand. It can be after some period of time also. There can be some time limit also in case of bill of exchange. In case of check, there is no time limit concept. It is always payable on demand. Grace of days, 3 days are allowed in grace days. That is, if time period is fixed that it is to be paid after 3 months, then 3 months ke baad another 3 days ka grace period is allowed. In case of check, no grace period is allowed. No, notice of dishonor, that if drawee fails to pay, he doesn't pay the amount, notice of dishonor by pay to the drawer is necessary. In case of check, such notice is not necessary. If the check bounces and the amount is not paid, notice giving is not necessary. We can directly file suit. Crossing of bill of exchange is not required. Check may crossing is done. Stamping of bill of exchange is necessary. Check may stamping is not required. So negotiation basically is explained in section 14. Negotiation is basically transferring some rights to other party. For that, transferring those rights, negotiable instrument is given from one person to another. So that is what is the purpose of negotiation. Please go through this, you will understand. Modes of negotiation. Negotiation that is transferring some rights to other person can be done in 2 ways. Eitherly just by delivering the instrument to other person or by endorsement and delivery. So from one person's hand to if it is given to other person's hand, the negotiation can be done that way by delivery, or negotiation by endorsement and delivery. Endorsement means if Mr. A is drawer, Mr. B is drawee, and Mr. C is paying. Okay, so Mr. B is going to pay to Mr. C, and that is what is ordered by Mr. A. Now Mr. C is paying right now at present, and the amount he is going to get is after 3 months. But right now he is in the needs of money. So what he will do? He will go to Mr. D, and he will say, you pay me the amount, and you recover the amount from this later on. This can be done by going to the bank also. But he goes to some individual, say for example, Mr. D. So what Mr. C will do is, Mr. C will write Mr. D's name as a payee, and he will sign there that I have transferred to other. Mr. D, and now Mr. D is the holder, and because of the endorsement he becomes the pay. So this is how endorsement and delivery happens. So Mr. C will deliver it after signing, and Mr. D will have this now right to recover from Mr. B the amount. This is called endorsement and delivery. So this is how negotiation can be done, by delivery also and by endorsement and delivery also. You can please go through this slide to understand it in more easily. Example is also given. Now let us understand about endorsement. Endorsement, as I explained, in my example, when Mr. C was original pay and he was in needs of money and he gave it to Mr. D. So when Mr. C gave it to D, Mr. C signed and wrote Mr. D's name as a pay. Okay. So this is what is called endorsement. Here Mr. C is an endorser and the one who's receiving Mr. D is endorsee. Everybody is clear with this? If any doubt regarding that, you can ask. So endorsement, very simple. Mr. C is endorser, Mr. C is endorsee over here. Go through this one. Who may endorse or negotiate? This also you read and you will be able to understand who all can. Makers or drawers or pay. Pay to definitely endorses. My example, may I told you. But makers or drawers can also endorse in favor of someone else. Let us go ahead. Essentials of a valid endorsement. So endorsement can be made on the back or face of the instrument. आगे की साइड पे या पीछे की साइड पे कहीं पे भी, या कोई पेपर को स्लिप पे और पेपर को भी अटैच करके उस पे भी एंडोर्समेंट किया जा सकता है. It must be signed by endorser. And in my example, I told you Mr. C, who's the original pay, and he's giving in the favor of Mr. D. So he will sign. Mr. C needs to sign. He is the endorser. And it must be completed by delivery of the instrument. So just endorsing and keeping with yourself will not be sufficient. You need to deliver also. तो Mr. D को rights देने हैं, तो उनको उनका नाम लिख के Mr. C को sign करके फिर deliver भी Mr. D के towards करना होगा. And must be made by the holder of the instrument. Who is holding the instrument can do it. So pay or the holder, anyone can do it. So holder is now Mr. D is the holder and he wants to give in the favor of Mr. E. आगे तो वो भी ऐसे कर सकते हैं. There are a lot of many types of kinds of endorsement. Blank or general endorsement. Blank endorsement is if Mr. C, who was the original pay, if he just signs and just deliver to anybody, okay, Mr. D, but Mr. D का नाम नहीं लिखा है, तो किसी का भी अगर नाम नहीं लिखा है, एंडोर्सी का नाम नहीं लिखा है, तो इट्स ब्लैंक एंडोर्समेंट. फुल और स्पेशल एंडोर्समेंट, दैट इज पे का नाम लिखा है, एंडोर्सी का नाम अगर लिखा है, एंडोर्सर ने साइन भी किया है, तो इट इज फुल और स्पेशल एंडोर्समेंट. Partial endorsement. Partial endorsement is it is regarding the half amount or partial amount of mentioned in the bill of exchange. कि पूरे bill of exchange का endorsement नहीं कर रहे, but what they do is only part of the amount का वो लोग endorsement कर रहे. That is, if Mr. C was supposed to recover from Mr. B 10,000 rupees, he will say that 5,000 I will recover at the end of expiry period of the bill of exchange, but 5,000 you recover later and you give me at present. So Mr. D के favor में only 5,000 part amount का उन्होंने endorsement किया. That is what is partial endorsement. Restrictive endorsement. Restrictive endorsement is based on some restrictions that the endorsee needs to fulfill certain criteria, then only he will be able to recover from drawing. So that is what is restrictive endorsement. And conditional endorsement is endorsee needs to fulfill some conditions, then only the amount will be paid to the endorsee by the drawing. So this is what is conditional endorsement. Now let us understand holder. Holder of the instrument, the one who is finally holding the instrument, will have right to receive the amount. Okay, so that is what is holder. But when it is payable to order, किसी का नाम लिखा है, and then if endorsement has also not taken place, and the one whose name is written is not holding and someone else is holding the instrument, he will not be allowed to pay. He will not get the amount. Drawee will not be giving to the holder there. His name should be written, or his name as an endorsee should be written. Then only he will get the amount. If it is the bearer instrument, in case of order instrument, such rule is applicable. But if in case it is a bearer instrument, then definitely holder will get the entire amount. Who can be holder? So as I said, payee, original payee, endorsee, bearer. Bearer है तो किसी को भी मिल सकता है. Or legal representative of the payee or holder, payee or endorsee, उसके behalf में legal representative, or some agent, principal के behalf में, if agent is holding, payee or endorsee is a principal और उनके agent अगर hold कर रहे, they can be also holder, and then if they are holder, they will get right to recover the amount from drawee. Next is holder in due course. Now we understood about the holder, who can be holder, who is holder, when exactly they will pay, they will get the amount. This all we understood. But now let us understand about holder in due course. Holder in due course basically means a valid holder. Two conditions needs to be satisfied for being a holder in due course. Okay. So for considering any holder as a holder in due course, there has to be two conditions satisfied. That is, one, he must have paid some consideration and taken the instrument. So instrument he must have got in against some consideration. And secondly, second condition is he must not be aware about any defect in the title. Defective title means in the ownership right. So holder if receiving from someone else and someone has जिसके पास से रिसीव किया, in my previous example I told you, see, Mr. C is a payee and he's endorsing in towards Mr. D. Okay, now Mr. D never knew that Mr. C took the instrument or got the instrument as from theft. अगर उसने चुरा के Mr. C ने लिया था instrument and Mr. D को दे रहा है, and Mr. D knew about that, then he will be just called as holder. Even if it is endorsed by Mr. C, he will be just called holder and not holder in due course. But if Mr. D doesn't know about any defect in the title, that is ownership right of Mr. C, he will be called holder in due course. So two things, Mr. D, in my example, Mr. D needs to pay consideration and he needs to also have a clear understanding about the title. He must not have any idea about the defective title from whom he is receiving. Okay, these two conditions needs to be satisfied in case of holder in due course. So keep this in mind properly. Holder in due course, two conditions, then only any holder will be considered as holder in due course. He needs to pay consideration, and second, he must not be aware about any defective title from the one from the one from whom he is receiving the instrument. And holder in due course, as I'm saying, is a valid holder, and valid holder, if he is, then he will be having a better title than any other holder. Okay, so holder se better hota hai valid holder, so he will have a better title when holder and holder in due course both are claiming, and some holder can prove that I am a holder in due course. Definitely he will get the amount, he will have legal right in first place. Please go through this slide. Now let us move to privileges of holder in due course. As I said, he will have better rights as compared to holder. So he can sue every prior party to negotiable instrument. So prior party means endorsement if made in favor of other persons as well. So in my original example, Mr. A is a drawer, Mr. B is a drawee, and Mr. C is pay. Now pay, Mr. C is endorsing in favor of Mr. D. Mr. D is endorsing in favor of Mr. E. And Mr. E is endorsing in favor of Mr. F. Now Mr. F is finally holder in due course. And say for example, by as a fraud, Mr. D and Mr. E is also going to the court and claiming the amount by keeping the copy of the negotiable instrument. Now Mr. E, when he is able to prove that I am a holder in due course, he can sue previous party also for claiming the amount. Say for example, drawee is not paying, Mr. B is not paying the amount. He can sue Mr. C, D and E for the amount. That from them also he can recover the amount from any one of them, like that. And burden of proving his title does not lie upon the holder in due course. The best part is that holder in due course need not prove that I am a holder in due course. The one who is claiming that he is not the holder in due course needs to prove that he is not the holder in due course. Are you getting me? Okay. So the burden of proving that he is holder in due course is not upon him. It's upon other one who is claiming that he is not a holder in due course. So we are almost about to finish negotiable instrument. Guys, write down any query if you have about a negotiable instrument, whatever we have done till now. If any query, I'll quickly address it and then I'll move to next topic quickly. So I'm about to finish this negotiable instrument. Write down any queries if you have. Then instruments obtained by unlawful means. If it's a lost instrument, if I got the instrument from someone and someone took it, it was lying on the road and he took it and then he gave it to me. It's a lost instrument. The holder of a lost instrument should give notice of the loss to all the parties through public advertisement. So if it was originally my instrument and it was lost, kahin ghoom gaya tha, so I have to give public notice of it. The finder of lost instrument is not entitled to sue thereon in his own name. Then finder, अगर रास्ते पे से मुझे कहीं पड़ा मिला किसी का instrument, and then I am a holder and I am claiming amount from drawee and he's not giving me, I cannot sue him personally in the court because I am a finder of lost instrument. It did not belong to me originally. Okay. Next, the true owner can recover the instrument from the finder if it is with him, but he has parted with the instrument and has received payment thereon and cannot return the instrument to the owner. He must compensate the owner. The true owner basically can recover the instrument from the finder. if it is with him, but he has parted with the instrument and has received the payment thereon and cannot return the instrument to the owner, he must compensate to the owner. So रास्ते में से कहीं मुझे पड़ा मिला, मैंने जाके पैसा उसमें से क्लेम किया और मुझे मिल भी गया, then अभी ट्रू ओनर मेरे पास से रिकवर, जिसका एक्चुअली था रास्ते में गिर गया था, that true owner can recover the amount from me, and in case मैंने वो पैसा भी खर्च कर दिया है, I do not have that amount, I have parted with that amount, say for example, then he must compensate the owner. So ये जो the one who found the lost instrument needs to compensate the true owner because he enjoyed the money, he used all the money. And an acceptor, maker or drawee who makes payment in due course of a lost instrument gets a valid discharge of it. So acceptor or maker or drawee who makes payment, एक बार उसने पैसा दे दिया in due course, validly, due course means validly, of a lost instrument. उसको नहीं पता था कि it's lost instrument and someone found it and claiming amount. But if one's drawer or drawee or maker makes the payment, from his side, his liability is over. So in due course मतलब validly दिया होना चाहिए. He should not be knowing, he must not be knowing that this person was a finder of lost instrument and not the true owner. If he knows about it and still he pays it, then he may not be, we cannot say he is discharged from his liability. But if he in due course validly, without knowing of any defect, he pays in good faith of, towards the lost instrument also, it's a valid discharge of his duty, then he is free from liability. Stolen instrument. The thief does not get any title to the instrument if the instrument is payable to the bearer and it's negotiated to a holder in due course. So originally the instrument was a bearer instrument, but then he negotiated to a holder in due course. Okay, but he then later on gives to someone who has paid the price, and without knowing that he was a thief, he took it from him. So he is taking in good faith after paying the consideration. So now this holder in due course can claim the amount, but this thief was actually who had stolen the instrument cannot claim the amount. He will get a good title to it, not only against the thief but also against any party prior to him. Holder in due course we are talking about, he will get a good title against thief and against any prior parties also. Good title का meaning होता है ownership of real property, free from any claims, कोई और claim नहीं कर सकता है. You get good title means nobody else can claim, it belongs to you only get ownership rights. Instrument obtained by fraud. So valid contracts must be brought about by the free consent of the parties always, forceful नहीं होना चाहिए, competent to contract. Therefore the person guilty of fraud not only gets no valid title to the thing obtained but also liable to damages. तो compensation देना पड़ेगा और title भी नहीं मिलेगा. तो fraud से कभी किसी का consent नहीं लेना चाहिए. Okay. Then forged instruments means fake sign करना किसी का, signing it fake. So forged instrument in the eyes of law have no existence whatsoever. If it's completely invalid, it's void ab initio. From beginning, it has no validity if it is forged instrument. So there is a complete absence of title from the very beginning, and a forged signature is altogether inoperative. No force in law, not applicable in law. And lastly, dishonor and discharge of negotiable instrument. Discharge means paying off. Drawer or drawee pays to the final holder in due course, and that is discharge of instrument. But dishonor is basically failure to make payment or default in making payment. That is what is dishonor. So dishonor can be made by two ways: by non-acceptance. So drawer has ordered drawee to pay, and payee has gone for the acceptance of drawee, and he denies that I am not going to pay. So by that, from that very moment, we can say he has dishonored the instrument. Yeah, finally, if he has accepted, but he does not pay later. So when he is not making payment, that is when we can say that person, drawee, has made dishonor of the instrument. Now, whenever dishonor is made by the drawee, notice of dishonor is mandatorily to be given by payee or holder to the drawer. Okay, that this person has dishonored, and I am still, my amount is still due. I am still eligible to get the amount. And noting of dishonor is also necessary. Now, noting and protest, I have not covered this in slides. I'll tell you quickly about it. So once dishonor is made and notice of dishonor is served on the drawer and all the previous party by the endorsee, फाइनल एंडोर्सी जो है उसने आगे की सारे एंडोर्सर्स के फेवर में और ड्रॉवर के फेवर में नोटिस ऑफ डिसऑनर दिया है कि भाई ये ड्रॉई ने पेमेंट नहीं किया है, then he needs to serve notice of dishonor to all these previous parties, and then finally he needs to go and on that bill of exchange he needs to go and take a stamp of notary public, that is called as noting. Noting of dishonor is also necessary. So एक बार सबको notice देना है ड्रॉवर को और all previous parties को, that is called as notice of dishonor which is mandatory, and bill of exchange पे उसका stamp भी लेके आना है notary public का, that is called noting that this bill is dishonored by the drawee. So this noting is also necessary. And protest, after that comes protest. Once notary public does noting, that is stamping of dishonor on the bill of exchange, he gives a certificate that so and so person drawee has dishonored in favor of this person and previous parties के नाम, ये सब लिख के एक certificate देगा, and that certificate is called protest. Remember, I have not covered this in slide protest thing, but after noting, other thing comes is protest. This is a certificate of dishonor given by the notary public to the holder. Okay. So we are done with negotiable instrument. I'll quickly address your queries and we'll move to next topic. Someone is asking when we get this PPT. You are not. Yesterday also I answered this question. You are not going to get the PPT. This is there available on YouTube. You can anytime go and watch on YouTube. This PPT will not be sent to you. You can anytime go to YouTube and watch this. Nisha, you are asking, ma'am, please explain against holder in due course. Okay, dear, holder in due course is the one who is a valid holder. And two conditions when a holder satisfies, he becomes holder in due course. One is when he has taken the instrument after paying some consideration. Okay, कोई पैसा कुछ consideration pay करके या फिर उसके लिए कोई काम करके से कोई सर्विस प्रोवाइड करके कुछ देके कोई भी वे में उसने वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट इस तरीके से आफ्टर पेइंग सम कंसिडरेशन लिया होना चाहिए. एंड सेकेंडली इन गुड फेथ लिया होना चाहिए, मतलब आगे की कोई फ्रॉड या कोई चुरा के मिला है, कोई थीफ के पास से मिला है, कोई लॉस्ट इंस्ट्रूमेंट मिला है या फिर कोई भी टाइटल में डिफेक्ट है जिसके पास से वो ले रहे हैं, इसके बारे में कोई आइडिया नहीं है. सो इन गुड फेथ दैट पर्सन इज टेकिंग फ्रॉम द एंडोर्सर, ओके, और फ्रॉम द वन हु इज गिविंग, उसके पास से जो ले रहा है वो इन गुड फेथ ले रहा है without knowing about any fraud or defect in title, defect in ownership right of the one who is giving. Okay, so that is how holder becomes holder in due course. I hope Nisha your query is answered. Please let me know if you understood about it. All right, we are done with Negotiable Instrument Act. Let us move ahead and do LLP, Limited Liability Partnership. Okay, Ravi Kumar is asking, what is material alteration? Material alteration means changes, and material alteration is any important kind of changes made in the instrument. That is called material alteration. Priyanka Agarwal, ma'am, Indian Partnership Act is also there before LLP. Dear, I know about it. LLP is more important than partnership. Partnership also I'm going to cover in the class, but very quickly. And if you all give thumbs up, I'll directly move to company law, because I think that is more technical and that is more worth to understand. And today also we are left with almost only 1 hour, and tomorrow 3 hours. So in 4 hours it is very difficult to actually finish company law, but still I'll be trying to finish as much as possible. If you all give thumbs up that if you are okay for not partnership, I mean not covering partnership, then I'll directly move to company law, because partnership is something you have done in your junior colleges as well. I hope everybody is commerce students only. So partnership act is very, very simple, and this is something you have done in your junior college. If you all want, I can cover it very quickly, like 10-15 minutes में मैं पूरा cover कर लेती हूँ. पर if it is okay, I feel company law is more important and more worth to understand. So you all give me answer and comment. If you all are okay, we'll after LLP we'll directly move to company law. Let us first start with limited liability partnership now. LLP is basically a mixture of companies features and partnership features. Okay, so Indian Partnership Act जो होता है उसमें पार्टनर्स के लिए क्या होता है कि मिनिमम दो पार्टनर्स होने चाहिए, मिनिमम 2 partners. Then partnership deed, that is agreement of partnership, is entered between partners, and all the rights and duties are covered, and all the terms and condition of partnership firm is covered in the deed of partnership. And as per partnership act and as per partnership deed, their partnership is governed, right? So partnership act works like that. Company works like company needs to be registered. Company is a separate legal entity from its members. Then company में limited liability होता है. I mean the members are not fully liable. Unlimited liability नहीं होता है towards all the creditors and all. So these all features of company and partnership, both kind of features are mixed in LLP. Okay. Now what happens in partnership is maximum there is a limit of partnership. But when you are into limited liability partnership, to main benefit you get is you can have any number of partners, and another benefit you get is you have all the partners, I mean have limited liability. Okay. Now you all are a professional course students, CMA के students हो आप लोग सब लोग. On professional firms like CA, CS, lawyers and cost accountants, सब लोग ये लोग क्या करते हैं, LLP फॉर्म करते हैं. तो this is very important for you all to know. LLP very interesting. No limit on partners, मतलब ऐसा maximum कोई limit नहीं है कितने ही partners हो सकते हैं. And again limited liability, no unlimited liability towards creditors. That is also very, very important feature and very good feature about limited liability partnership. So here 2 features of company and partnership, both are mixed. Okay. Now introduction, these all topics I'm going to cover in LLP. Okay. So let us quickly start. So here partnership firm plus private limited companies. हम ऐसे बोल सकते हैं private companies, not public companies, because LLP do not issue shares and all, right? Public company mainly does shares and all. So private companies के जो rules होते हैं similarly like that, and partnership firm, इन दोनों की का mixture, ये दोनों के features का mixture is actually limited liability partnership. Avni Thakkar is saying show PPT. So is my screen I mean visible to everybody? You are talking about partnership PPT or LLP PPT, Avni? Please let me know. So LLP is a mixture of partnership firm and private limited companies. Okay. Indian government passed LLP Act in 2009. Okay. And from March 31st it started. It was notified, and first LLP was registered on 2nd of April 2009. Okay. Very quickly in 2 days itself. Okay. So these details can be helpful to you. for your MCQ, for your multiple choice questions, for your objective questions. Now, what is the need for LLP? I already told you, the professionals who deal in international activities and all, partners पे limit नहीं होना चाहिए and liability भी limited होना चाहिए. So that is how the need for LLP. So these obstacles are removed, which was there in partnership, Indian Partnership Act. These obstacles are removed rather in LLP now. So features are, these obstacles are removed. Please go through which kind of obstacles. Limited liability, first of all. So in Partnership Act, partners had unlimited liability. So whatever they had, their personal properties, that also has to be given to creditors if the business is going in loss. That is not the same in case of LLP. Limited liability is there, just like company. Flexible form of organization, administrating according to LLP agreement. So this is one of the feature of partnership they have introduced. Agreement between partner is there, and their terms and condition, rights and duties are governed by LLP agreement. Required to register with ROC. Registration, just like company, they need to register with the ROC. ROC is registrar of companies. LLP agreement is the main incorporation document. Like how in companies MOA, memorandum of association, is there, in LLP agreement is the main document. Then the economic rights of partners are freely transferable. That is the percentage of profit they share and all. Those are freely transferable. Perpetual succession, just like company, because it is registered by admission of partners or death of partners, LLP's existence will not fluctuate. LLP will go on and on even if the partners come and go. Okay. Separate legal entity, because it is registered just like company, it will have separate legal entity. Okay, so different from its partners, its identity, the LLP's identity will be different from its partners. That is what a separate legal entity. So if some wrong, some wrongs are going on in the LLP, partners will not be sued, LLP will be sued. So it has its own identity. Every partner is an agent of the LLP but not liable for the wrongful acts of other partners. What was the drawback in partnership? As per Indian Partnership Act, that drawback is covered over here. That for only one partner acts in a bad manner, fraudulent manner, all other partners used to be liable in partnership. That is what is not happening in LLP anymore. Then, in the absence of any provision for distribution of profits, losses, partners are entitled to share profits and losses equally. So, if in the LLP agreement they have mentioned any ratio in which partners will share their profits or losses, then it is to be shared accordingly. If there is no mention, then equally they share. LLPs are not allowed to operate as NPOs. Yes, this is one thing you need to remember properly. As per non-profit organization, they cannot work. It has to be for business only. LLP for profession or business. So it is governed by LLP Partnership Act, LLP Partnership Rules. Then by Registrar of Companies, time to time ROC, Registrar of Companies, will also keep giving rules, and LLP agreement which they have made among partners. Through that, so through these four things, the LLP will be governed. For incorporation, for registering the, for making the LLP, these requirements are there. Minimum 2 partners, minimum 2 designated partners. Now, how in partnership there are active partners and non-active partners, sleeping partner and all like that. Here, active partners are called designated partners. That is full time giving their time to LLP. And maximum, there is no limit on partners. Then capital, no limit on maximum and minimum capital contribution. Okay, as it is there in company, used to be there actually. Now it is not there in company as well, but it as it used to be there in companies के 1 lakh 5 lakh ऐसा minimum capital, ऐसा कोई capital का no minimum limit or maximum limit of capital. Okay, names, at least 2 proposed names are required. दैट इज LLP का नाम, LLP का जो नाम रखना है तो ROC को एटलीस्ट 2 नाम प्रपोज करना है, उसमें से ROC whatever they allow, whatever he allows they can keep. Objects as per LLP agreement, LLP agreement में whatever they have mentioned their object for making LLP, object of the their object of the business should be that only. Documents, these all documents, please go through these all documents they need to submit to ROC for registering the LLP. Next, let us see the steps for incorporation of LLP. I've mentioned the numbers also with the steps, so you can read it and understand it very easily. How and what steps needs to be taken for registering the LLP. Okay, so number 1 says DP will apply for DIN. Here DP means designated partners. So how in company directors file apply for director identification number. Here designated partners will actually apply not for DIN, DPIN actually. Okay, that is designated partner identification number. DPIN. Please make a note. Please make a correction over there. I will use the short note DIN, short form DIN. It is DPIN. Designated partners will apply for DPIN. DSC, that is digital signature certificate to be applied by DP, that is designated partners. To sign all the professional documents online, digital signature certificate is required. Register DSC on MCA site is register digital signature certificate on Ministry of Corporate Affairs site. And apply for new user registration. File form 1 for name approval, that is 2 options for name they have to give, and then they can apply for they can get one of the name will be approved and they can keep that name. Next step is file incorporation document, and that is their LLP agreement and subscriber statement in form 2. Minimum partners sign with the statement in form 2 they need to submit, and once approved by ministry, LLP is registered. So Ministry of Corporate Affairs will approve it, and then later file LLP agreement in form 3 with the ROC. So this is how procedure needs to be followed for registering the LLP. Now, when we talk about LLP is also a body corporate, and companies are also a body corporate. By body corporate, I mean those who have separate legal entity. So those who have separate legal entity are different from its members or partners. Okay, so the company LLP or company's identity is different. Their own business, own rights and duties are different from the directors or members of the company or partners of LLP. Okay, so both of them are body corporate basically, companies and LLPs. Now, and both has its own advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so those who want to take advantages of company, they will form company. Those who want to take advantages of LLP will form LLP. Now, whenever they shift on their advantages perspective, they tend to convert themselves from private company to LLP or LLP to private company. How does conversion happen? Please go through this quickly. Conversion of private or unlisted company into LLP. So company when will they turn into LLP? And how? Please go through this slide quickly. Let's move ahead. Administration. So how LLP's administration take place? Please go through this. Accounts and returns they prepare. And how do they prepare? These details you need to remember. Remember these details, this years, this amount of limit, 5 crores and 50 lakhs amount limit. All this particularly, uh, these things can be asked in your objectives also, and this entire thing for accounts or returns questions can also be asked. So remember this properly. The simple records to be preserved for 3 years. This can be asked in your MCQ. It's very simple thing to remember, and it is a quite likely question for the objective. Let us move ahead. Relationship of partners, how they are governed. Relationship of partners are governed by LLP agreement. So in a LLP agreement, the terms and conditions there, um, how what are the rights and duties, all those are given. Okay, in absence of agreement, principles set out in first schedule will apply. That is, obviously they will enter into LLP agreement. Without entering into LLP agreement, they cannot register themselves as LLP. Okay, so but if any clauses are absent, if for regarding some terms or conditions or some rights, if LLP agreement has no clause, it is silent about that, then regarding that thing, that rights or those terms and conditions, first schedule of the act of LLP act will be followed. Principles set out in first schedule will apply. Okay. Registration of changes in partners or details of partners to be filed in Form 6. Whenever they need to change any details in partners or registration, they can do it in Form 6. Equal share in capital and profits, losses. Uh, in Schedule 1, all these things are given. Partners are not. So, what I said, LLP Act ka first schedule. So, LLP Act ka first schedule covers all these principles. Okay. So, if your LLP agreement, you can enter as per your requirements. I mean, the partners can enter as per their own requirements, but they can take idea from the Schedule 1 also. And in case any clauses are absent in their LLP agreement, it will be applicable as per this. So Schedule 1 covers all these principles regarding terms and conditions and rights and duties of partners. See, second one says that partners are not liable to any remuneration. So they will be getting profits, but they will not be getting any remuneration salary for this management of LLP. Okay, let us go ahead. Admission, retirement, and death of partner. So, as I mentioned earlier, LLP is a separate legal entity. It's a body corporate. It is registered corporate body. So it will have a perpetual succession, okay, by admission or retirement or death of partner, or partners coming, incoming, or going out. By that, LLP will not be affected. It will have a perpetual succession. It will go on and on, which used to happen in the traditional partnership. What used to happen is, by death of partner, admission of a partner, or retirement of a partner, entire partnership deed had to be changed, and the entire functioning of partnership used to change. Our partnership used to be closed because of death of some partners. Here it doesn't happen that way. It is a body corporate. It has its own existence, own identity, and it has a perpetual succession. So by partner's death or coming, admission or retirement or anything, LLP will not be affected. Now let us talk about audit and taxation part of LLP. Of course, taxation part is of quite importance for cost accountants. So that has to be learned while learning LLP. So what is the requirement of audit? Please understand and remember it very precisely. Statutory audit is mandatory if annual turnover is more than 40 lakhs or contribution exceeds 25 lakhs. You all understand annual turnover, and contribution here means the profits. The tax audit is mandatory if turnover exceeds 60 lakhs. All right. So statutory audit is done by CA and tax audit is also done by CA, but you all know tax audit and statutory audit is different. Okay. Taxation on LLP. LLPs will be treated as partnership firm for the purpose of income tax. So whatever rules are applicable as per Indian Partnership Act, similar will be applicable on LLP. No surcharge will be levied on income tax. So what surcharge we individuals and all have to pay on income tax, those kind of surcharges are not levied on LLP. Profits will be taxed in the hands of LLP, not in the hands of partners. So of course, LLP is a separate legal entity. So LLP's taxation will be different from its partner's own taxations. Okay. Minimum alternate tax and dividend distribution tax will not be applicable for LLP. Instead, AMT has been introduced alike to MAT. Okay. So minimum alternate tax which companies pay and dividend distribution tax which companies pay is not applicable to LLP. But similar to MAT and minimum alternate tax, AMT concept has been introduced specifically for LLP. Remember that. All right. Remuneration to partners will be taxed as income from business and profession. Okay. So remuneration like that they are not supposed to receive. So we can say profits also. Profits to partners will be taxed as income from business and profession. No capital gain on conversion of partnership firm or company into LLP. So company into LLP or LLP if gets converted into company, no capital gain tax they need to pay. Okay. Designated partners will be liable to sign and file the income tax return. So LLP definitely its own income tax return will be different from its partners. But of course, since it's an artificial person, though it has its own legal identity, separate legal identity, but it's definitely end of the day, it's an artificial person. So designated partners are the ones who will be eligible to sign their tax return, LLP's tax return. Okay. Next is LLP shall not be eligible for presumptive taxation. That is to presume that how much they're going to earn and then to pay like that in advance. That is not, LLP is not eligible for that. Capital gain on conversion of company into LLP will be exempt from tax if prescribed conditions are complied with. Earlier also we dealt with conversion. In case of conversion, capital gains are not supposed to be paid. On conversion, the successor LLP will be allowed to carry forward and set off of accumulated loss and unobserved depreciation allowance. So once the LLP gets converted into company and whatever is then left in whatever losses or assets are left in the LLP, those are set off and unobserved depreciation allowances like that entries are made. Okay. Then on conversion, the successor LP will be allowed to amortize the expenditure incurred under voluntary retirement scheme. On conversion, the successor LLP will not be allowed to take the credit of MAT paid by the predecessor company. Okay, so AMT has to be paid by the LLP. So if they are supposed to pay that, they have to clear even after the conversion. But if the company in which they are merging or something, if they have paid MAT, they cannot set off against that. It's when they were on a separate identity, what tax liability they had, they have to pay even after conversion for the transactions done before the conversion. Comparison between firm and LLP. Quickly go through this. Partnership LLP का difference. Quite favorite question. ये भी बहुत पूछते हैं. Very easy to score your marks. Quickly go through this. I'll be starting company law soon in next 5-7 minutes. If you have doubts in LLP, please let me know. Please post in the comment box. Okay, then let us see the comparison between company and LLP. This is also quite a favorite question, and obviously LLP has mixed features of company and partnership. Then so both kind of comparisons are worth seeing. There is a change over here. In third point of comparison between private limited and company, common seal is compulsory in company and common seal is optional in LLP. Here this will not be any more a point of difference, because in company also through amendment common seal is made optional. Now it is no more compulsory. So please make a note of this and make changes accordingly. Let us go ahead and do foreign LLP or FDI and LLP. Foreign LLP means LLP which is formed, registered, incorporated outside India and which establishes a place of business in India. Okay, so it has its branch office or other place of business in India, but registered outside India, it's called foreign LLP. It's required to file Form 25 for approval of name with ROC. If a foreign LLP has been incorporated in language other than English, then it has to be certified by notary public of their respective country in English language as well. Okay. If translation has been made in India, then such translation is required to be certified by all the professionals, 4 professionals in the country: CA, CS, cost accountant, or advocate. Foreign LLP shall within 30 days of establishment in India required to file Form 27 within 30 days from its establishment. All right, students. Foreign LLP is a quite favorite question. This is also quite asked as a short note. This can be asked. So all these points you can cover in your short note. FDI means foreign direct investment. So LLPs with FDI will be allowed through the government approval route. Okay. So when LLP, any FDI, they want to invite, or some foreign companies want to make FDI in LLP, Indian LLP, through government approval route, it can be made in those sectors activities where 100% FDI is allowed. Okay, where 100% and not 100% and 50-60% is allowed, there also they cannot make through the automatic route, and there are no FDI linked performance related conditions. So where 100% FDI allowed, no approval required. But where 50, 60, 70% FDI allowed, in those kind of business or sectors, through government approval, they can make FDIs. Okay, LLPs can make FDI and invite FDIs. LLP with FDI will not be allowed to operate in agriculture, plantation activity, print media, or real estate business, because FDIs are not allowed in those sectors. Those are prohibited sectors for FDI. So if LLPs are working in this sector, then they cannot invite or make FDIs. LLP with FDI will not be eligible to make any downstream investments. Downstream investments means any kind of investment where disinvestment sort of LLP with FDI will not be eligible to make any downstream investments, mean दूसरे फिर कंपनीज में इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना है वैसे. Dissolution or winding up. Last one, quickly, if you have any queries, you can go. You can ask. Dissolution or winding up. 2 ways LLP can be wound up: voluntary, when partners voluntarily wish to dissolve, they can wind up the LLP, and compulsory winding up by tribunal. By tribunal means NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal. It's the right body who will dissolve the LLP as well, just like company. So if these conditions are fulfilled, tribunal will compulsorily dissolve or wind up the LLP. Please go through these conditions quickly. You go through this slide, and in another 2 minutes, if you have doubts, let me know. I'll address your doubts regarding LLP, and then I'm moving ahead with, everybody is giving thumbs up, so I'll move ahead with the company law. Then I think that is more worth to learn. Partnership is something which you can learn, which you have learned in junior college, and which you can learn on your own also later. So you finish reading this slide, and then I'm moving ahead with the company law. All right, everyone. Uh, it seems you don't have any doubts in LLP Act. So let us start with the company law now. Very, very important. You have a company law for 35 marks. Okay, 35% of your syllabus is in company law. So I'm trying to cover majorly whatever possible. Commercial law almost I've covered, and I'm now covering company law. I'm trying my best that I finish till tomorrow entire company law, and at least major parts of it. So that your 65% of your syllabus is done then. All right, and then I'll be giving you little tips how to do the labor laws and ethics part as well. All right, so let us start with the company law. Okay, So when we are talking about company, let us first talk about Companies Act 2013. When we are talking about company, the new Act, Companies Act 2013 came, and lot of it came with lot of changes. Earlier there used to be a Companies Act 1956, and lot of changes made in new Companies Act. Companies Act 2013 came, and it introduced a lot of new concepts. So let us understand about the um, let us understand about those new concepts introduced, and the main parts of company law. So scheme of the act, first of all, a very substantial part of the act will be in the form of rules which will be prescribed separately. Okay, so there are 470 sections. Okay, earlier there used to be 658 sections, now only 470 sections. So in old act, this bracket is about old act. So now originally only in new Companies Act 2013 only 470 sections are there, 7 schedules are there, and 29 chapters are there. Okay. Now okay, sorry, I'm really sorry. No, this in whatever is given in the bracket is now notified, and overall 658 sections are there now. 15 schedules by later on amendments and notifications. These all are there, and 13 parts are there. And as I have, it's written in the left part of the, and as it is written in the left part of the screen, you can see substantial part of the Companies Act in the form of rules. So a lot of rules are given by the central government, which is forming part of Companies Act, and together with Companies Act sections, we need to read those rules and understand the sections better. Okay. So let us first understand about characteristics of company. Very quickly, I'll cover this. Incorporated association means companies needs to be registered. It has to be it has go through a incorporation procedure with ROC. The company's incorporation procedure has to be done. How it is it has to be done, that also we'll see in a while. Then company, since it's a body corporate, as we talked about this in LLP as well. As we talked about this in LLP, company has its separate legal entity. It's a body corporate. So company is different from its members. Okay, company is just a second. Yeah. So sorry, I'm back. So second the feature which was we were covering was separate legal entity. The company as a body corporate has its own legal identity separate from its members and directors. So companies, liabilities, rights, duties, everything is different. Its own properties, its assets, liabilities, its cases, its lawsuits, everything is different from its members. So Whenever company is doing something wrong, members and directors are not liable because limited liability feature is also involved. So company's own identity is different. Separate company has its own identity, separate legal entity it has. Okay. Then another feature is a very, very important feature which we saw in LLP as well, is limited liability. So unlike a traditional form of businesses, sole proprietorship and partnership, and all partners or the businessman had unlimited liability in the business. That is not same in companies. Company, in case of company, liability is limited. Members liability, directors liability are limited. Whatever risk is involved is in the company. Not members will not face it, directors will not face it. Their liability will be limited up to the amount of shares they are holding. Okay. Then the perpetual succession. Perpetual succession, this also we discussed in LLP part. Perpetual succession is companies members may come and go. It may die, it may come and go, it may retire. Directors may come and go, but company's existence does not end. It goes on and on. So perpetual succession, company's life ends only legally. Only company dies only legal death. That is when legally company is wound up. That is when company will be ended. Otherwise, by members coming and going out, company's existence will not end. Next is common seal. After amendment in Companies Act 2013, common seal is made optional now. It's not a compulsory feature. So common seal is basically a signature of company. Company being an artificial person, it cannot sign on its own. Some directors needs to sign on its own, but on behalf of company, for entering into contracts on behalf of company. So company's name, company signature also needs to be there on the company's contracts and company's documents. So for that, a seal in which company's name is engraved used to be posted on all the documents of the company, but now it is made optional. Not company will decide whether they want common seal on the documents or not. So it's made optional now. Common seal is a company's signature which is posted on the documents of the company. Next is transferability of shares. Company shares are freely transferable in case of public company. Public company shares are also listed when listed on stock exchange. It is freely transferable. That is, anyone from stock exchange can buy and sell the shares. It's freely transferable. No doubt private company shares are not freely transferable. There are some restrictions, but transferability of shares are there in the company. Separate property. Company being a separate legal entity, it has its own separate property. Members won't own it. Company will own its own property. Company will enter into contract on its own and own its own properties. Capacity to sue and be sued. Company being a separate legal entity, company can sue for breach of contract or for any wrongs done against company on its own name, and company can also be sued by others in its own name. Artificial person, definitely it has a separate legal entity. It's different from its members. Its identity is different in the eyes of law. Legally, its identity is different, but it is an artificial person. So its acts are done through directors and members only, though it has legal identity different from its members, but definitely artificial person. So members and directors will be doing working on behalf of company or acting as agent of company. Separation of ownership from management. This is a very, very important and peculiar feature of company. That is, unlike in normal businesses, traditional form of businesses, sole proprietorship and partnership, partners used to own, they themselves used to handle the business. They'll be the managers. Sole proprietor, only person, he's the owner, he's the worker, everything he's only doing, right? He's a manager, everything he's doing. But here, shareholders are the owners of company. Those who are buying shares and investing in company are the owners of the company, and they appoint directors to manage the business. It's not necessary. Shareholders can be directors, but not all shareholders will be directors. So shareholders appoint a team of management and they will look after the business. So ownership and management is different over here. And liability wise also ownership and management will be different. Now, since when I'm telling you about this concept of separate legal entity of company. So separate company has separate legal entity, that is members, directors are different and company's identity is different. If company is doing something wrong, company के against case होना चाहिए. The case should be filed against company, not against members, directors. That is what I told you. But then end of the day, company is an artificial person. Company will not walk and do any criminal activity. Company by its own hands will not do any wrong, civil wrong or criminal wrong, correct? So directors and members who are agents of actually company will only work on behalf of company. So at times, the using of this concept, separate legal entity, is not useful. It will actually save directors and members who are working for their own personal benefit. Okay, so company का नाम लेके on the name of company, if they are committing some wrong and gaining personally, then it is wrong that company is only sued and they are not sued. Definitely it is wrong. Yes, if company is benefited by doing some wrong, then company के against ही case होना चाहिए. But if company के नाम पे हो रहा है but benefit, personal benefit किसी और का हो रहा है, then definitely that has to be opened in the court and personal liability should be put on those persons who are getting personal gains, right? So at such times, there will be lifting of corporate will. Here corporate will means concept of separate legal entity. The concept of separate legal entity, that company is different and members are different, is put aside. That is, lift corporate will means put aside the separate legal entity concept and see inside who is getting personal benefit, personal gain, and who is actually committing wrong for their own personal gain. That has to be seen by keeping the concept of separate legal entity aside and seeing. So court will see by lifting the corporate will, that is keeping aside the concept of separate legal entity, that who is actually doing wrong in the name of company and who is getting personal benefit. That is what the concept of separate lifting of corporate will is. So whenever for personal gain, directors, members are committing wrong in the name of company, court will lift the corporate will and punish them. In your module, you can see a lot of cases where and situations where court have lifted the corporate will and punished the wrongdoers and treating company and directors, members same for punishing them. Okay, so that is what is lifting up of corporate will is. Anybody, if you do not understand anything about lifting of corporate will, please write me in comment box. Let us move ahead with another topic, kinds of companies. Okay, there are different types of companies, and the classification of companies also made from 3 angles: from incorporation point of view, from liability point of view, and from control point of view. So types of companies are classified from incorporation point of view, first of all, in 3 ways: chartered company, statutory company, and registered company. Let us understand each of them one by one. Okay, and registered company के भी 2 parts है, public company and private company. Then company is classified liability wise also. So when company's liability is limited, so limited by shares either, limited by guarantee. And in that also public private company का guarantee अलग होता है, and unlimited liability वाला company. Then third classification is as per control. So whose control on the company? So government or non-government company, holding and subsidiary company, foreign and domestic company. So such type of classifications of company are there. Each of them we'll see in detail, all types of companies. Now, types of company में incorporation wise, let us see first statutory company. Statutory company is company which is incorporated by Parliament of India or state legislature of India, of state. Okay, so legislative assembly of state by passing act, particular act, a special act is passed for making a particular company by Parliament of India, state legislature of state. Then that is a statutory company, like LIC, RBI. for making LIC a special LIC Act was passed in the Parliament. So LIC Pay Companies Act is not applicable. LIC के लिए special LIC Act is there. So when Parliament or state legislature makes special acts for making these special bodies, it is called statutory company. Are you getting what I'm saying? So LIC RBI best example of that. Please go through this slide quickly. Okay, let us do next one. Registered company. Company registered under Companies Act 2030. All those companies are registered companies. Okay, nothing great in that. Registered company, two types, public and private company. It can be divided into two types then later. Then chartered company. Chartered company used to be there before independence actually. Company is created by special charter by monarch. Okay, the powers of chartered company is defined by charter. That is their document under which it is incorporated. So East India Company, Bank of England not exist in India. ये chartered company India का भी part नहीं है. Then limitation. Then this was second types of company liability wise. So liability wise, limited by share, limited by guarantee, and unlimited company. Three ways. So when the liability of members are limited by share, up to how much amount of share they have bought. Say for example, I have bought a share in the company of rupees 100. My liability towards company is just rupees 100. Once I have paid rupees 100, my liability is 0. Okay. And if I have not paid any amount, say for example, I have paid partly 50 rupees. So my liability towards company is just unpaid amount of share. That is another 50 rupees. Okay, that is limited by share. Liability limited by share. Then limited by guarantee. Companies, these type of companies may or may not have share capital. If they have share capital, then dual liability, guaranteed amount as well, and share amount also you need to pay, both the kind of liability. But if it is without share capital, just limited by guarantee, so there is an amount guaranteed in the memorandum of association of company. And in the event of liquidation of company, that is at the time of winding up, company, those members of the company needs to contribute to the amount to pay to the creditor. The amount which is guaranteed in the MOA, that much amount. Say for example, in my company, in MOA it is written that all members needs to contribute rupees 2,000 at the time of winding up. Only at the time of winding up, I have liability to contribute rupees 2,000 to pay to the creditors. That's it. Baki koi liability nahi. So in the lifetime of the company, here the members in this type of companies, members do not have any liability. But it is with, if the company is with share capital type of company, then members will have liability dual. During lifetime of company, only share amount, whatever they have bought, that much they have to pay. And at the time of winding up, they have to pay guaranteed amount mentioned in MOA. Okay. Then next is unlimited liability. Unlimited liability by name only, it suggests that liability of members are unlimited. Okay. So, but here, unlike partnership firm and sole proprietorship, creditors cannot directly sue members. Creditors can only claim from company, and company can ask their members to contribute the amount in unlimited manner. Okay. So that is what is unlimited liability type of company. Next one. I said registered company ke two types, private company and public company. Let us see private company. Minimum paid up capital rupees 1 lakh. Minimum number of members 2. Maximum number of members are 200. Right to transfer of shares are restricted. I said freely transferability सिर्फ public company में होता है. इधर transfer of share करना है तो there is some restrictions, you need to follow that. Cannot invite public to subscribe its shares. Private company में there is a restriction that they cannot invite public to buy its shares. This only public company can do. So TCS, Reliance Industries Limited, ये सब, these are examples of private limited company. Private limited company के further we can see two types which are specially made in this Companies Act 2013. OPC, one person company and small company. So OPC, one person company, is incorporated as a private company. Minimum paid up capital 1 lakh, no right to transfer shares, and the word OPC mentioned in bracket below the name of company. So after name, Nidhi company, the Nidhi OPC company I have to mention when my company is OPC company. Okay. Then another type is small company. It is also a type of private company only. Paid up capital here maximum limit, because it's said to be small company. It has to be small capital wise and turnover wise. Okay. Otherwise it cannot take privileges of small company. That is why small company बोला है तो फिर small company जितना होना चाहिए, वरना उसको convert कर देना अपने आप को normal company में. So paid up capital should not be more than 50 lakh and turnover cannot be more than 2 crore. Okay. And OPC is also a type of small company. Means here also when they exceed this turnover limit or paid up capital limit, they need to convert themselves into other type of company compulsorily. They cannot continue if they exceed the turnover or paid up capital limit. They cannot continue as a small company. Public company. They can invite public to subscribe shares. Minimum 7 members, maximum members पे कोई limit नहीं है. And shares are freely transferable. So in stock exchange and all, the shares can be freely transferable. There are no restrictions. ONGC and Coal India are the examples of public limited company. Public company can be further classified into listed and unlisted company. Listed company means stock exchange पे listing जिसने करवाया है, listing agreement stock exchange के साथ sign करके, whoever has listed their company on the stock exchange is called listed company. That means the company which is listed companies, their shares can be bought and sold on stock exchange. And unlisted companies, shares can be bought and sold privately, not on stock exchange. Then next is government company. Government company means any company where government has major stake in the company. Okay, major stake means minimum 51%, at least 51% paid up share capital is held by government. Which government? Either central government or any state government, or central and state government in combination, or 2 or more state government in combination, if together holding minimum 51% capital in share capital in any company, paid up share capital, then that will be considered as government company. Any subsidiary of government company will also be considered as a government company. Okay. So if government, what is subsidiary company, we'll see just in a while. So subsidiary of government company will also be treated as government company. Next is holding company and subsidiary company. Let us understand these two together. There is a company A and there is a company B. If, and this A company is a bigger company like ONGC, okay, and say for example there is a small company called ABC Limited, okay. Now this ONGC has a lot of money and all, and it has good business. So and ABC Limited इनको attractive लगता है ONGC को कि इसको buy कर लेना चाहिए. So ONGC keeps buying shares of this ABC Limited from market, okay, and now finally holding 52% of shares of ABC Limited. ONGC have 52% shares of ABC Limited. So we can say ONGC Limited is a holding company and ABC Limited is a subsidiary company. So any company in which one company has minimum 51% share capital of other company, that company becomes holding company, and जिस company के shares उनके पास है वो company subsidiary company बन जाएगी. All right, everybody clear with this? So that is how it is, holding company and subsidiary company. One more criteria for becoming holding and subsidiary company is if this ONGC company, say for example, do not have any shares in ABC Limited, but the board of directors can be, ऐसा कोई agreement है ये दो company के बीच में जिसमें ONGC can appoint or remove majority of directors of ABC Limited, appoint or remove. ONGC के पास पावर है कि इनके मैनेजमेंट को चेंज करना है. ABC Limited के majority of directors can be appointed or removed by ONGC. Then also we can say it has power, no, पूरा management power उनके हाथ में. So ONGC is a holding company and ABC Limited is subsidiary company. This is what we can say. So holding company and subsidiary company is that way. Next is foreign company. Any company which is registered outside India but having place of business in India, similar to LLP, ऐसा ही है. Any company which is registered outside India but having place of business in India is considered as foreign company. So lot of examples, see Samsung, Apple, KFC, lot of examples. All right. So I have explained all the types of company majorly. There are 1, 2 or more types to be explained, which I have not covered in the slides as such. One is associate company. Associate company is also introduced new in the Companies Act 2013. Here for associate company, you need to remember one term called significant influence. That is one company having significant influence, that is important influence in other company. These two companies are said to be associate companies of each other. A Limited and B Limited are said to be associate company when A Limited has significant influence in B Limited. Now, what do I mean by significant influence is when A Limited has at least 20%, how much? 20% of paid up share capital in B Limited. A Limited is holding at least 20% of paid up share capital of B Limited. So we can say A Limited has significant influence in B Limited, means important kind of influence, 20% तक के share उसके पास है, ठीक है? So these two companies are each other's associate company. That's what we can say. So that is what is associate company. You can find the definition and the word significant influence, underline that. You can find this definition in your module. You remember the word significant influence while writing the associate company's definition if asked in the exam. Significant influence is equal to holding 20% share capital in other company. And the one more type of company I would like to explain is dormant company. Dormant company, this also is introduced new in Companies Act 2013. That is any inactive type of company. Okay, so in Companies Act provisions are such that any company which is inactive, which is not doing business continuously for 1 year, will be closed by the ROC. Their name will be struck off from the register by ROC. There is such provision in the Companies Act. Okay, but there are some companies which are like in builders, they buy a plot and then they dig and they work for 3-4 years and then they start selling flats and then there are accounting transactions happening in their balance sheet. But they have made a company and in that name they are making building. Okay, so there are a lot of such companies. Infrastructure companies are also such, where for some beginning years there will be no accounting transactions. So of course there will be lesser communication with ROC and ROC will feel that this company is inactive and they will close the business. So that if such thing does not happen, such new type of companies introduced in Companies Act called dormant company. Dormant company is when the company is likely to be inactive for 3 years, they can, while registering the company, they can obtain the status of dormant company, that for next 3 years we will not have much of accounting transactions and all, so don't close our business basically. So they have to have the status while registering the company. They will have a status of dormant company. They will apply for it, and if registrar grant them certificate of incorporation writing having the status of dormant company, registrar will not interfere with their business for first 3 years, even if they are not active enough. All right, that is what is dormant company. So this two, associate company and dormant company. Besides this, you need to remember. All right. So here I'm ending types of company. We are done with the time. It's already 1 now. So let us continue tomorrow with other part of company law. I'll try to finish as much as possible tomorrow, and you can come up with the doubts also, whatever you have up till now tomorrow, and I'll be happy to address them. And let us meet again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, madam.
Welcome, sir. I'm leaving the meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.